What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I'll break down what's going on with the overall market, what you should be watching for moving forward. I'm also going to talk about NIO, SPY, Tsla, and the QQQ very briefly and break down what the technicals are suggesting. I'm going to talk about why NIO dropped the way it did today as we had some bearish news that came out. And I predicted this yesterday. I told you guys NIO was going to likely see some downside, and that's what happened. And then I'm going to break down what's going on with the data affecting the markets going into the next couple of days. But before I break anything down with all this information, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so make sure you take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends very soon, and it's in just about 7 days. So check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. NIO is down 5.06% for the day as of right now, taking a bit of a hit. And the question is, why did this happen? I will talk about that in just a few minutes and then break down the technicals. Let's first talk about the market and how the data looked. So the economic optimism report came out right over here. And this was a little bit lower than expected, which was another bearish catalyst. There was also some bearish news involving the banks that came out with another credit downgrade in the USA, and some bearish news involving Chinese exports, which I will talk about in just a few. Let me just remind everyone that for Wednesday, which is tomorrow, there's not really any major data coming out. The market is just going to be getting ready for CPI, because on Thursday, before the market opens, you have to be ready for this. We have CPI coming out. Now, I'm not going to be releasing a video until Wednesday after the market closes. So I want to remind everyone to be very careful on Wednesday. Okay. I'm not giving financial advice. You could do whatever you want. I'm not telling you to buy or sell, but I'm just trying to let you know that if you hold a position after the market closes on Wednesday, okay, I'm talking about like options and trading, it's going to be kind of risky because on Thursday, CPI comes down and the market could see a massive gap up or a massive gap down. The market could tank if we get a hot CPI. You never know what's going to happen. And the best thing to do is just to be very, very patient and wait and see how it looks. Okay, so I want to be as clear as possible and very blunt with you. Be careful when trying to hold anything overnight tomorrow. Starting like tomorrow, basically, like from Wednesday after the market closes to Thursday, be very careful with that. There's going to be a big move on Thursday. So I want to warn you guys right now, I will not be back to post a video until after the market closes for Wednesday. That's why I want to warn you in advance. Anyways, when it comes to earnings, we have AMC coming out right now and Rivian and just a couple of others. Tomorrow for Wednesday, we have Roblox, Sony, and Walt Disney. Disney's going to be a big one to watch for. Then we have Alibaba for Thursday. Whatever Alibaba does could affect the market and the Chinese tickers. Now, when it comes to what happens in the US banks, Moody's has come out, right? This is a big credit lending agency, and they basically announced that they're downgrading 11 US banks in total. It's not 10, it's actually 11. This is showing 10. It's actually 11. So they downgraded a lot of them. They mentioned that the high interest rate environment is going to hurt their assets. On top of that, depositors are once again decreasing their investments in the banks. And all these different things are hurting a lot of banks. So this is important to note. I want everyone to know about this. And this is part of why the market sold off the way it did. But the stock market's trying to bounce as a whole. But for Chinese tickers such as NIO, we had another negative piece of news. China has reported double-digit plunge in the July exports and imports, missing expectations, and this is actually not good news for them. This slowdown right over here could lead to some dropping demand, and this is actually pointing in the direction of that in China. So as another economic slowdown is once again perpetuating, exports are down 14.5%. That's why we saw a lot of Chinese tickers drop that hard. And if we get more data like this for tomorrow, this is going to be very impactful. For now, I'm not really seeing it, so we're just going to be patient. As far as NIO goes, we also are seeing NIO making headlines right here. Let me first talk about this. NIO had a very, very good record monthly deliveries, and they are getting some buy ratings from different analysts. This is basically what this article is saying. But at the same time, it did drop quite a bit because of some not so good economic data. And as issues arise in China, there are some concerns for many Chinese tickers. NIO is once again getting exposed to this risk. But at the same time, as long as they maintain strong deliveries, things should be okay for them. This is what the article talks about. I do agree with that. And the expectations are still relatively strong. If you look at their monthly deliveries, they saw a nice increase for the month of July. And we're expecting more increases like this as time goes on. So let's hope we see something like that. Let's hope that NIO continues to kill it. And moving forward, things are still looking good for them. They're still getting buy ratings, and most investors are saying to hold on to your shares. Now, looking forward, the analysts such as UBS are neutral on NIO. NIO has a relatively strong price price ratio, still holding up here, not too bad. And on Wednesdays in particular, NIO tends to be relatively strong. 56% of the time, NIO is green, so it's a little bit more than half of the time. Not bad for NIO. And then moving forward, we tend to see these increases in the short interest being associated with more downside. We saw about 23 million NIO shares being shorted just a couple of days ago. This is a negative catalyst for them, and we will see what effect this has as NIO is beginning to weaken a little bit. 62 million was the volume, nothing too crazy. And then looking at the short volume relative to price, it's at about 66%. So that's very different. Excuse me. That's very different as well. This is going up a bit, which is a bearish catalyst. It's starting to go up. And to add on to this, looking at some tweets from NIO has tweeted that the ET5 basically is a very, very awesome car for them with the new design. And it's once again looking very, very great for them moving forward. So this is the ET5T, a little bit different, not the ET5. Once again, awesome for them. New terrains are where they're actually taking pictures. They have very nice looking pictures, and they're reminding us that they have good models and things should improve to continue for their deliveries and such. So how does NIO look from a technical standpoint? Honestly, guys, it's not looking that great because on the 4-hour time frame, we could see that. Let me just hide these drawings. Give me 1 second. So on the 4-hour time frame, it's starting to respect a downtrend. There's no true sign of a bounce just yet. There is this unfilled gap around 14.75. So it really depends on CPI at this point. But like I said before, I mean, the thing about NIO is it had a head and shoulders pattern that could be developing. If it drops a little bit more, we could see this thing gap down to like this low level, a little bit lower than to get a bounce. If this is forming a head and shoulders, then we could see NIO get a bounce and retest this area back to the 15s, but it isn't really looking like it just yet. We also have this unfilled gap, so could we see like a rebound first and then it continues dropping, or will it just continue dropping from here? My gut tells me it's going to rebound a little bit and get a retest of about 14.5 at the very least. If it breaks to 20 EMA, we could fill the gap and get closer to 15, and then form a right shoulder. So we have a possible left shoulder ahead, possible right shoulder could be forming, then some downside after that becomes a real possibility. But I'm just eyeing a possible head and shoulders like pattern. There's also the possibility of this trying to rebound just a little bit with the market, because when you look at SPY, this thing came down pretty hard in the morning, right? But then this thing also rebounded. So the whole market could rebound just a little bit, in my opinion. If you look at SPY, it came down pretty hard in the morning after we got this negative news involving the banks, and it hasn't really filled this gap up here. It has this gap at this 450 area, so my gut tells me we might gap down and then try pushing, or the market could just try pushing from here. I'm going to be watching for the 451 retest tomorrow. I think the market's going to try to pump right before CPI, and then CPI will determine if the market holds or not. So I'm going to be looking for a potential gap down. Maybe it could be forming like a cup and handle, comes down a little bit in the pre-market, then starts pushing. And once again, a nice pop for about 450 to 451 for tomorrow. Looks very probable. For Tesla, it's the same thing. Tesla made an attempt to break out. It still is tight. I mean, it tried to break out right about here after getting really tight. And then, if anything, it formed another wedge. It's getting very tight again, so we're expecting a big move. From a technical standpoint, we might see Tesla make an attempt to fill this gap and push up to at least 252 plus. It looks a little bit more bullish than bearish, but just to be safe, we have to see it hold above 250. If it rejects, we have support at 247, the entire zone, like 245. My gut tells me upside is going to be coming for Tesla, and we are going to be waiting to see if that ends up being the case. So just be patient. We will see which way it breaks. And the best thing we could do is just remain calm, cool, and collected. In my opinion, there's a chance that Tesla could try to break out, could see some upside right about here. But even though I'm leaning in that direction, we have to see it hold to 250 first. And then for the triple Q, this is a possible head and not a head and shoulder, sorry. We had an inverse head and shoulders here. Then we could be forming a cup and handle as well on it. We had this imbalance fill right here as well. Going to be looking for a bit of a drop in the pre-market, maybe a retest of like 371 or so, then a bounce, and I could see it coming all the way up here to this like 373 plus area. We also have this unfilled gap at 375. Could we pump that much? I mean, I'm going to be careful with that claim, but it is a possibility. We could see this thing once again gap a little bit down, then start pushing for 373 plus. And if we break that, I could be seeing 375, or at least a test of like gap resistance around 374. So I see a little bit more upside for tech, and we could see Nvidia and many stocks follow it. And for that reason, we might see a green day for NIO for tomorrow, a small little bounce, but I'd be careful because there's a possible head and shoulders developing on it. This could be like a left shoulder ahead, maybe a right shoulder is going to form. We might see NIO bounce and see a retest of 14.8 to 15 with the market for tomorrow, and then we will see if it rejects or not. If it rejects, this downtrend could perpetuate. If not, then we could see a bounce. But for now, I am anticipating like maybe a pop, a little pop to like back to 14.8 to 15, maybe a little higher from a possible right shoulder, then a drop afterwards. Or it might not happen that way. So we'll have to wait and see. That's what I'm leaning towards as of right now. So look for a little pop and maybe a rejection or not. But that's where I'm leaning towards, and we will see how it reacts to this resistance. With that said, thank you all so much for listening. Hopefully, this video was helpful with all the information I provided. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for the next video. Don't forget that for tomorrow, it's Wednesday, the last close before CPI. The market is going to be unpredictable for Thursday before the market opens when CPI comes out in the morning. So be careful with Wednesday, and don't forget it's not a bad idea to be securing profits just in case, not financial advice. All right, thank you for listening. NIO to the moon as the long term is very bright, and peace out.